In a culture addicted to performative joy, the decision to treat your birthday like a normal day is often misdiagnosed as a social defect. They call you cold. They call you ungrateful. They assume something is wrong. But what if the silence you choose isn't a symptom of loneliness, but a sign of a highly evolved psychological strategy? While the herd instinctively seeks the cheap dopamine of external validation, your brain is engaging in a radical act of resistance against the social script. You aren't missing out on the celebration. You are simply immune to the pressure of tribalism. This isn't a flaw. It is autonomy in its purest form. Let's decode the neuroscience behind why you prefer the quiet. Part 1. The Anatomy of Autonomy. To the outside observer, your indifference to your own birthday often looks like emotional detachment. They assume you are suppressing a need for love, or perhaps you are simply ungrateful. But the lens of modern behavioral science reveals a radically different picture. This is not a deficit of emotion. It is a surplus of autonomy. In the framework of self-determination theory, human motivation is divided into two distinct categories: controlled motivation and self-determined motivation. Most birthday celebrations are fueled by the former. We participate because of social pressure, the fear of judgment, or the obligation to reciprocate. We are acting out a script written by culture, not by ourselves. For the vast majority, this social contract is comforting, but for you, it feels abrasive. Research suggests that individuals who opt out of these rituals possess an exceptionally high internal locus of control. You do not derive your sense of self-worth from external validation because your psychological architecture is built to resist it. You are not wired to seek the cheap dopamine hit of Facebook likes or performative toasts. This trait aligns with what neurobiologist C.R. Cloninger defines as low-reward dependence. While the average brain lights up in response to social approval signals, relying on bursts of norepinephrine and serotonin to feel connected, your neural circuitry remains unmoved. By applause, you don't need the audience to know you exist. By treating your birthday as a normal day, you are not rejecting joy. You are rejecting the performative labor of pretending to be happy on someone else's schedule. You are protecting the authenticity of your own experience. Part 2. The neurobiology of resistance. The second psychological driver is deeply rooted in how your brain processes expectation. Birthdays are rarely just celebrations. They are complex bundles of unspoken demands. You are expected to be happy. You are expected to host. You are expected to perform gratitude on cue. For most, these are minor inconveniences. But for your specific neural architecture, they trigger a distinct form of cognitive friction. This phenomenon is often linked to what behavioral scientists call pervasive drive for autonomy, a milder, non-clinical parallel to pathological demand avoidance, PDA. When a social occasion comes attached with a rigid script, you must feel special today. Your brain does not interpret it as a gift. It interprets it as a loss of agency. The pressure to conform to an emotional expectation triggers a subtle threat response in the nervous system. Consequently, the act of celebrating becomes an exercise in high-functioning masking. You are forced to manually operate your facial expressions, modulate your tone, and simulate excitement to match the energy of the room. This is not relaxation, it is labor. It creates a state of cognitive dissonance where your internal reality, calm, neutral, clashes with the external performance excited, loud. By treating the day as normal, you are essentially short-circuiting this drain on your resources. You are removing the performance tax from your existence. Your nervous system prefers natural, unforced interactions because they require zero masking. You aren't being antisocial. You are simply refusing to burn your mental energy on a play you never auditioned for. Part 3. The temporal architect. Thirdly, we must look at how your brain processes the abstract concept of time. To the average person, a birthday is merely a festive interruption, a temporal landmark used to demarcate a new chapter. But for you, this landmark triggers a profound, often heavy, cognitive process known as temporal self-appraisal. While others use loud music to drown out the ticking clock, your mind instinctively pivots toward reflection. Psychology suggests that for deep thinkers, a birthday acts as a catalyst for mortality salience, an acute awareness of life's finiteness. You don't see a reason to celebrate the mere accumulation of another year. Instead, you feel the weight of the year that has just been spent. This is not pessimism. It is realism. Your brain is conducting a high-level audit, comparing your actual self against your ideal self. In this state of heightened existential awareness, the frivolity of balloons and cake feels almost insulting to the gravity of the passage of time. You prefer the quiet because it allows for the integration of these insights. Furthermore, you likely possess low temporal landmark dependence. You do not wait for a specific date on the calendar to change your life or seek a fresh start. You view growth as a continuum, a daily discipline, kaizen, rather than a yearly performance. You treat the day normally because, to a mind that is constantly evolving, the calendar is just a number, not a command. Part 4. The cost of visibility. Fourth, we must address the aversion to being the center of attention. Society often dismisses this as mere shyness or insecurity, but neuroscience offers a more compelling explanation. Social vigilance. When a room full of people directs their gaze at you, your brain does not necessarily register this as affection. For those with high sensitivity, the collective stare triggers the amygdala, the brain's threat detection center. In evolutionary terms, being watched by the entire tribe was not always a sign of safety. It was often a prelude to judgment or expulsion. While the extrovert's brain interprets the spotlight as a social reward, flooding the system with validation, your brain perceives it as a high-stakes surveillance task. You enter a state of hyperarousal, scanning the environment for micro-expressions and managing your own reactions to ensure they meet the group's expectations. This is not a party. This is a tactical operation. This process imposes a massive cognitive load. The energy required to sustain this level of vigilance is exhausting. Therefore, preferring a normal day is not an act of self-deprecation. It is a biological strategy for energy conservation. You are instinctively avoiding the metabolic cost of being on stage, choosing instead the safety of invisibility where your nervous system can finally rest. Part 5. The affect valuation mismatch. Fifth, we must decode the fundamental mismatch in how you define happiness itself. The world tells you that a good birthday must be loud, exciting, and surprising. But according to affect valuation theory, AVT, this is a cultural bias, not a universal truth. Psychologists distinguish between two distinct types of desired emotional states. The first is high arousal positive, HAP, the domain of excitement, euphoria, and adrenaline. This is the currency of the traditional birthday party. The surprise, the noise, the peak experience. However, your psychological profile likely prioritizes low arousal positive, LAP, states. You do not crave the spike. You crave the baseline. Your ideal affect is defined by serenity, calmness, and emotional stability. When society forces a high arousal event upon a low arousal nervous system, the result is not joy. It is intrusion. You treat your birthday like a normal day because, for you, normalcy is the sanctuary. You value genuine connection over performative ritual, not because you are boring, but because you find no nutritional value in the empty calories of small talk and loud music. You would trade 1,000 happy birthday notifications for a single hour of deep, undisturbed peace. By rejecting the party, you are simply aligning your environment with your true emotional needs, choosing the depth of silence over the shallowness of noise. Part 6. The art of emotional homeostasis. Finally, your refusal to celebrate is often a sophisticated form of emotional regulation. Psychology identifies a mechanism called dampening, the conscious or unconscious reduction of positive emotional intensity. While traditional advice suggests we should maximize joy, your brain understands the law of emotional gravity. What goes up must come down. You likely engage in defensive pessimism or strategic stabilization. You intuitively know that extreme highs, the dopamine spikes of a raucous party, are often followed by an inevitable neurochemical crash. By keeping the day normal, you are maintaining emotional homeostasis. You are protecting your equilibrium from the volatility of the birthday blues that plague so many others when the confetti settles and the silence returns. In the modern context of 2025, this isn't just a defense mechanism. It is a lifestyle choice known as JOMO, the joy of missing out. While the world suffers from FOMO and digital burnout, you find luxury in the low dopamine existence. You treat your birthday as a sanctuary of slow living, preferring a micro celebration, a quiet coffee, a solitary walk, a moment of stillness over a macro event. This is not an inability to feel. It is the deliberate choice to feel peace instead of exhaustion. You aren't hiding from the world. You are simply refusing to let the calendar dictate your emotional state. So, if you are someone who lets your birthday pass without fanfare, do not let the world diagnose you as broken. You are not missing anything. You are simply operating on a different operating system, one that prioritizes autonomy over approval, peace over performance, and reality over ritual. In a hyper-connected era where every moment is commodified for public consumption, your silence is a radical act of rebellion. You have mastered the art of being enough, without the need for a curated audience to confirm it. The next time someone asks why you treat your birthday like a normal day, you don't need to explain the neuroscience of arousal or the psychology of self-determination. You can simply smile, knowing that while the world is busy chasing the noise, you have found the ultimate luxury: the freedom to just be.